Hello and welcome to the debate about can LLMs reach AGI? In this debate we will take a closer look at the statement, can large language models, or LLMs, be considered artificial general intelligence, AGI? Before we start to talk about if LLMs are capable of reaching AGI, we need to understand what AGI is and how it can be reached. Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI, represents a level of artificial intelligence that can understand, learn, and apply knowledge across a broad range of tasks, much like a human. Unlike narrow AI, which is designed to perform specific tasks, AGI can adapt its intelligence to solve any problem, whether it's like a familiar problem or an entirely novel problem. And this includes things as reasoning, problem solving, planning, learning from limited data, but also making decisions when there's a lot of uncertainty, but also emotional intelligence. And this brings us to the ARC test. It's called the Abstraction and Reasoning Corpus. It is a set of visual cognitive challenges, tests, that are designed to evaluate the core abilities that of any form of intelligence, whether it's human or artificial, what that would need. And these tests, they include complex puzzles that require abstract thinking, but also pattern recognition and the application of general rules to new situations. The ARC tests, they are very important in the context of AGI because they help measure the AI system, its ability to generalize from limited examples, and they have to solve novel problems without any prior specific training. So if they are already trained on this specific problem, this is basically cheating. And this ability to think and learn flexibly across different scenarios. So if an LLM passes an ARC test, let's say with 80%, which is the score of an average human being, it means that the LLM is beginning to approach a general and flexible intelligence that can learn on the fly. It's dynamic learning. So Francois, who is the co-founder of Zapier and the inventor of Kernel at Google, he states that LLMs do not just exhibit true intelligence. He says they're actually pretty dumb. So according to Francois, intelligence is not just about handling the familiar tasks, but it involves solving the novel problems and solving them creatively. So he sees the LLMs more as static models. They're very good at following the pre-trained patterns and looking for problems to solve and finding those frames to solve for the problems. They just change some parameters and then the problem can be solved in another way as well. But they're not able to learn dynamically from new situations. And he basically points to the ARC test and he explains that the LLMs right now, they cannot pass the test. And people, they ask themselves okay, but really, the ChatGPT, it cannot pass this test? No, actually it cannot. And the puzzles are not that hard to solve. So people were very surprised by this fact. So they don't have the core knowledge that you need to solve for a problem right now. And this is why the LLMs do not have the intelligence right now. They just portray some skills by solving complex problems that they have been trained on. Then we see, yes, Francois' story is very true. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it's not possible for LLMs to eventually become AGI. And I will explain 3 points that, from my perspective, show why AGI for LLMs in the future is actually possible. So the first point is because of rapid advancements in model capabilities, and especially where we can combine deep learning techniques and LLMs together to create dynamic learning. So the second point as a consequence is that dynamic learning. I'll get into that later. And the last point is a more philosophical standpoint from myself about LLMs being a subset of intelligence. So if we take a look at the first point, there is a large potential for evolution. So how do we do this? Well, by integrating components of deep learning into the LLMs, we have the potential to evolve beyond the static learning frameworks. And we can create more adaptable and more flexible systems where we can teach them different things. We can move away from training on specific, like solving specific problems, and maybe we can teach them more about concepts rather than just providing a data set that is very specific. So that brings us to the second point. Like, what evolves from this could be in fact dynamic learning, where the model is capable of learning on the fly with a training set that is based on concepts, as I said before. This would only be possible because of some deep learning implementations which are more technical, which I won't go into right now. But an example would be to train it on cognitive models such as perception, or maybe basic understanding of cause and effect when we get into mathematics or physics. And these things, like these basic understandings, we already learn them from when we're born, or we're born with them, and we learn these things. We already know these things by the age of like 4 or 5. This will make the model be able to actually reason with the knowledge that it has and potentially solve the ARC test with this enhanced LLM model. LLMs as a subset of intelligence. Well, I think that LLMs are just a small part of intelligence. Just as the brain is created of several structures, if we check the CSEX video on the explanation of how the brain developed by evolution, the LLMs are very good at processing information and returning the solution that it has been trained on it to do, right? So I believe that the intelligence is an overarching concept that entails more things that we have not discovered yet or have not created yet. So we just started to understand how to create machines and their processors, and now we're expanding on the hardware by creating ways to interact with our environment, right? And this, we also saw this in evolution of the animals, right? When they were starting to interact with the environment and learn from these things. So I think we have to explore more on LLMs, but we should also not forget to look at other ways to find different components of intelligence and also explore these paths. So I don't think we should look at LLMs as the enabler to AGI, but rather to see it as a part of a larger intelligence that entails LLMs. LLMs will enable this intelligence, right? But it's not the only enabler. We need something else. We need something more to reach this. So yeah, perhaps in the future, it can become AGI. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something or got inspired. Have a good day.